A lot of you guys don't know me super well, but you kind of know me a little bit. I'm Miss Lamine, and I'm the librarian. And I see you guys a little bit when you're coming to check in and check out books. And I am so excited today that we have Lois Ruby here at our school. I was telling the third through fifth graders that I feel like it's like having a rock star come to your school, because for those of us who love to read, like authors are like our rock stars. And they can be so exciting and inspiring, interesting to me. So I hope that you guys will get so much enjoyment. Lois has some awesome stories to tell. She's going to tell you about her process of how she writes her books, the stories that are in some of her books. Some of her books are going to be at our book fair too, so if you didn't get a chance to order one before today, you'll be able to buy one at the book fair in a couple of weeks. I want to remind everybody about the champs. So if the speaker is talking, your voice level is supposed to be level 0. She is going to invite you to participate some of the time, so if she asks you to participate, then go ahead and participate and talk. But otherwise, we want to be respectful listeners, keeping our eyes up on the front. She actually lived in Wichita for a really long time, so this is her hometown in a way. She's coming to tell you about her books. So let's welcome Lois Ruby.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have very much time to spend together, and there are a lot of you and only one of me, so when I'm talking, I know you're going to be quiet, and when I ask for your input, everybody will listen carefully, and we'll see where we go. I'm probably going to trip over your knees. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to talk to you about some of the books I brought with me that are appropriate for older kids like you. And there will be an opportunity for you to provide some input, particularly on a couple of the books I want to talk to you about. And if we have time at the end, I would like to tell you a ghost story. Well, we have to see if we have time. So, yes, you want to ask questions, is what you're saying? Okay. Well, then we'll move as quickly as we can. Just to give you a little bit of background, I lived in Wichita for 30 years. All of our kids grew up here. This, of course, is my sweet husband over here. I met him when he was 17 years old. We were freshmen in college, and I kind of raised him just the way I liked him. He's turned out pretty well, I think. And we've been married for 53 years. And we have 3 grown sons who live in different parts of the country. They're all married. They all have kids. And so that's pretty much all you need to know about my background. I have been writing all my life. I started writing in first grade. You're probably, none of you, old enough to remember the old Dick and Jane books. Does anybody remember them? Maybe some of the teachers remember them. So this is how they taught us to read in first grade. They would say, they had these really hokey looking pictures, and they would say, see, spot, run. And then, of course, you were dying to find out what happens next, and you turn the page, and it says, run, 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 spot. And even as a 6-year-old, I thought this was insulting to my intelligence. So I started writing stories that had better vocabulary than run, 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 spot. And I just kept writing them and kept writing them. And here I am, all these many years later, with 7 grandchildren, and I'm still writing stories. I have 19 books that have been published, 1 more that will be out in about a year and a half, that's set in 1953, about the whole McCarthy Red Scare era, and it's a lot about baseball as well. And it'll be, as I say, several months before that was available. So I'll talk about some of the books that I have already done. And I want to start with a book, I don't have a picture of it right here, but a book that is called Miriam's Well. Has anybody heard of this book, Miriam's Well? Has anybody read this book? Woohoo! Okay. I'll tell you a little bit about it. It's actually set in Wichita. Miriam is a girl who is very religious. Her religion is something I made up. I didn't want anybody to think that I was ridiculing their religion, so I made up a whole religion, and according to the rules of her religion, she is not permitted to get medical treatment at all, because her religion teaches that God heals us. So, of course, as soon as you have a main character who can never go to a doctor, what are you going to do to her? Make her sick, exactly. That's how you get the story moving. That's the conflict of the story. And you know that all stories have to have character and conflict and some kind of resolution. So, she was so sick that she was in pain. It was possible that she was not going to survive this illness. So here's my question for you. If you had a friend like Miriam, and she was sick, and she was in pain, and she would not go to a doctor, what would you, as her good friend, do? What would you do? Okay, now I want to get around here. individually, some of you, what you have to say about it, okay? And my ears hear better, this guy, his ears hear better than my ears, so I will try to get around to you. You need to talk really loudly, and the rest of you need to be quiet while one person's talking, okay? So let's see, what would you do if you were Miriam's good friend? Let's start right here. What would you do?
I would go to a doctor and ask what kind of medicine help is if I would say that God gave it to me.
Okay, so you would go to a doctor, ask what kind of medicine would help Miriam, and say that God inspired the doctor. Is that what you're saying? God gave permission, essentially, for her to take this medicine. Okay? Who else has an idea? What would you do? Miriam, you're a good friend. Yes. You would bring her to the hospital. But you know that's against her religion. Is that okay to bring her to the hospital anyway? Think about it for just a minute. Okay. What would you do? You would take care of her yourself, even though you know that she might not survive. Okay, good. That's a good possibility. What would you do?
I try to make my own medicine.
You would do it? You would try, okay, somebody say try to make your own medicine, but she is against taking any kind of medicine. What would you do?
I would convince her that the doctor is God, and I would
Convince her that the doctor is God. Some doctors might agree with that. Okay, let's get around to some people on the other side. Okay. Miriam, we're your friend. What would you do? What would you do?
I would grind up the medicine for her and put it in her.
Okay, so you would deceive her. You would find out the medicine, you put it in her food, right? Okay, what would you do? Take her to church or pray with her, okay? Okay, good solution. What would you do? So you would stay with her, help her feel better, but it might not kill her. Is that what you're saying? Okay, and what would you do? Oh, she won't go to the doctor, so you bring the doctor to her. Okay. Somebody over here want to say something? Nancy, did you want to say something? No. Okay. So, okay, one more. Yes. Ah, that's interesting. Spend as much time with her as long as she's alive, stay with her. Okay, so you can put your hands down for a minute. So here's the thing. I hear a lot of you saying that you would make sure she got to a doctor one way or the other, or a doctor got to her, or you'd hide some medicine in her food, or something like that, right? Now, if you did that, do you realize you are violating her First Amendment constitutional rights to freedom of religion? Would you do it anyway? So my question for you, just think about it. My question for you is one kid's life more important than the rights to protect all of us constitutionally? Think about it. Or are the constitutional rights more important than one girl's life? These are the kinds of questions that this book, Miracles Well, raises. And these are the kinds of questions I'd like you to think about as readers. I don't ever tell you in my books, this is what you have to think. That's a great disservice if an author does that. I trust you to come to your own conclusions about important things in books. So I want to give you another example. I have a book called Rebel Spirits. Rebel Spirits. And it is partly a ghost story, It's partly historical fiction. And let me tell you just a little bit about this. It takes place in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Now, you may know that Gettysburg had a very decisive battle in the Civil War. In 1863, 3 days in July, July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, it rained the whole time of the battle. Thousands of people died in that battle on both sides of the Civil War. And so the story begins in the present time. And the girl in the story, whose name is Lori, her family has decided to move to Gettysburg. She's pretty unhappy about this because she doesn't want to leave her friends and her school and the things that are important to her and ship off across the country to a place that she's never been in, and she's not at all pleased. And the people who live in Gettysburg, and we know this because we went to visit to do research for this book, a lot of the people who live there believe that Gettysburg is haunted because of the fact that so many people died in this battle. Well, she is looking at her TV. She is, at her computer. She's Skyping or FaceTiming or something with her brother who is living in Africa as a Peace Corps type worker. And they're just chatting along. And all of a sudden she sees a face in the mirror that is not her own face. And she looks around to see who that is on the screen. And that person's gone. She looks back at the screen again, sees reflected like it's a mirror, this face right behind her. She turns around really, really fast, and behind her is this soldier. And he's only there for a flash. He's there like a shadow, and then he's gone. And little by little, he materializes. And it turns out his name is Nathaniel. He was a soldier in that battle of Gettysburg. But he wasn't killed in battle. And the thing is, if so many people died in that battle, isn't it strange that he died some other way? And you know how he died? He was murdered. And now, 150 years have passed, and he has returned as a spirit because he believes that Lori is the person who is going to figure out how and why he was murdered. But guess what? They fall in love. Do you see a problem in this relationship? Problem in this relationship. What is the problem? What's the problem? Once more, say it again. So she's alive, and he's been dead for 150 years. Do you think this relationship is going to survive? Don't have the time to go around and ask you to figure out how to resolve this dilemma in the book. But do think about it. If you were writing the story, think about it. Like I told you for Miriam's well, how would you resolve the dilemma? So we're not going to take the time to really do that right now, but are you going to make sure that they find a way to be together forever? Or are you going to or are you going to make it a time travel story? Or are you going to break up these people who love each other so much? No, you are such romantics. There are so many things I would love to talk to you about. I do want to do the ghost story that I promised, but I want to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to see if some of you have really pressing questions that you've always wanted to ask an author who doesn't, who isn't dead yet. So let's see if we can get a couple of these really quickly. Nice and loud, yes. What is the best experience that I've had being an author? Well, of course, coming to schools and talking to kids and having kids get really excited about books, that's a wonderful experience, but that happens a lot. I love going into a library and seeing my book on the library shelf, and then I think, why isn't it checked out? I've had wonderful experiences all over the country talking to kids about books. It would be hard for me to pick one experience. But the fact that one of my books called Steal Away Home, which is good for, fourth, fifth, sixth grade, not so much for older ones. The fact that it was adopted by the state of Georgia in their Civil War curriculum was just a tremendously exciting thing for me. Okay, one or two more questions. Let's see, somebody we've not heard anything from. Yes. Real loud, please. My favorite book that I wrote. It would be impossible for me to pick one because I love them all. Just like if you ever ask your parents, which one of us do you love more? Did you ever do that? Yeah, of course, the answer is you. But we also know that every parent is trained to answer that question the same way, which is we love you all the same. Growing books is very much like growing children. You put your heart and soul into them. You spend a good portion of your life on them, and then they leave you. Books leave you. They leave you and become the property of readers. So I could not possibly pick one favorite. Yes, real loud, please. How long does it take to write a book? You would be amazed. On average, about 7 years. Because by the time you do the research and the writing and the revising, and you all know that you have to revise and revise and revise and revise until you get it right, and then you send it to a publisher, and the publishers reject the book, and then you have to send it to another publisher and then revise some more, and then it takes them about a year and a half after they say they're going to publish the book until it gets onto your library shelf. So easily 7 years from beginning to end. Okay, if we're going to do the ghost story, we do need to start it in just a minute, but let's see if we got 2 more questions. I see there's a girl here way in the middle, so I'd love to hear your question, and I can't get there fast enough, maybe you could get there and hear it. And then there's a boy way in the back, and I want to hear your question also. So while you're getting to this girl, let me see if I can hear it. Yes, let me see if I can get you. About you? What do I know about you if you write a book? Okay, the next funny character I have, you just imagine each year. Okay. Hi. Do I ever get recognized in public? Not very often, because I'm not like world famous or anything, but I happened to be, when I was coming here, I happened to be sitting on an airplane, and the lady next to me said, "You look familiar to me. Who are you?" And I gave her my name, and she said, "Oh, you came to my school about 25 years ago." Oh, wow. And she remembered the book Miriam's Well. And usually, no, I am not asked for autographs when I'm out in public. Okay, one more question. Somebody who hasn't had a chance to say anything, okay? I want to get as many people as possible a chance. Yes, please. Which one is the newest book? The newest book is The Secret Grave. That's this book, The Secret Grave, and it's a spooky story. I'm not really a spooky story writer, but I was asked to write a couple of really creepy stories, and it was so much fun. This is my newest one. Okay, so in order to get our story in, let me just say a couple of things, first of all. When I finish this story, it will be time for you to go. There is a photograph that I want you to see. So, my husband and I will be standing at the back door. Do you all go out that way? Yes. Okay. We will be standing there. As you walk out, you can see the photograph. It's on a big poster, okay? So that's one thing I want you to know. Secondly, since I will not have a chance when we're through with the story to tell you, this is my commercial, okay? This is what I want you to know about why people have authors come to school. And it's about how important reading is. That reading is a gift you give yourself. Reading is your power. It is your superpower. You all need to be readers and reasonable writers to succeed as adults, to get a job, to get into college, to go to a technical school, to get into the military. You have to be able to read and write reasonably well. And if you think you don't like to read, I would say it's because you have not found the right book yet. So trust your teachers and your media specialists to help you find the book that is going to ignite your imagination so that you're going to want to read it and read another book and become a reader, because that is a very important thing you do for yourself, for your future. So that's my commercial. So now let me just tell you this story. It's about a book called The Secret of Laurel Oaks. And I apologize for the fact that there are no more copies available of this book. You can find it online, you can find it on Kindle, but there are no physical copies that I can show you. So here's the story. It's about a place called Myrtle's Plantation, and it's a very creepy place. We found out about it because our oldest son and his wife went to visit, and as soon as they walked into this place, it's in St. Francisville, Louisiana, as soon as they walked in, they could just feel that there was a spirit loose in this house, and the hair just stood up on the back of their necks. And one of the first things they do when they take people on a tour of Myrtle's Plantation is they take them into the front parlor, and there's a big mirror there. And you look in the mirror, and of course you see yourself. But what our daughter-in-law saw was the face of a young woman with very dark skin and a soft hat over the side of her head. And so she jumped back and said, "Who is that I saw in the mirror?" And the tour leader said, "What a lucky person you are. That is Chloe. Most people do not see Chloe because Chloe died in 1839. There are people who stayed overnight in that house who report waking up in the middle of the night and Chloe is peering down at them." Nope. Now, Chloe is a real person who lived in that house. She was born in slavery. She worked in the house as a cook, and she took care of the two little girls who lived there. And she had one really bad habit. She was an eavesdropper. The owner of the house, who was a slaveholder, who was a mean, awful, horrible, despicable man, didn't like the fact that she was spying on his conversations, and so he ordered someone to slice her ear off. And this truly happened to Chloe. This is history so far. What I've told you is history. That's why she wore the soft hat over the side of her head. Then in 1839, something else very dramatic happened in that house. It was the birthday of one of those little girls, and she and her sister and mother and father were in the dining room. They had this beautiful birthday dinner. Chloe brought out a birthday cake. But it was very hot in Louisiana at that time of the year, and the icing on the cake was starting to sort of slither off. And the father of that little girl, who was that mean man I told you about, he said, "That is the ugliest cake I have ever seen. I am not going to eat that cake." And so he didn't. But it's the little girl and her sister and mother who did eat the cake, and the cake was poisoned. And the three of them died that night. And that is still the history. But I don't believe what I have read, which is that Chloe poisoned the cake. I don't think she poisoned the cake. I needed to figure out who did. So we went to Myrtle's plantation to spend the night in the haunted house. But when we got there, there was nobody there, totally deserted, even though they were expecting us. And the only way we got in was that there was an envelope that was tacked to a bulletin board outside the house. And in the envelope was a key to let us in, and a letter warning us about certain things in that house. I'll tell you what one of them is in just a moment. I needed to talk to Chloe. I needed to find out from Chloe what happened. Well, we stood outside that house, and again, this is still what really happened. I've not made up anything yet. We stood outside the house, and we looked at the whole back of the house, and the rocking chairs on the back porch that all started rocking at the same time. And up in the third floor window, there was a light shining. And that reminded us that the letter that was in the envelope welcoming us told us about that light in the window. And the letter said, if that light ever goes out, all the spirits will be released. I needed to talk to Chloe. I do not talk to dead people. Dead people sure don't talk to me. But I went to a place where people had taken a picture that they say is Chloe's ghost. And I stood there and I talked to her, not with words, but with my mind. And I said, Chloe, I need to find out what happened the night those little girls and their mother died. I don't believe you poisoned the cake. I need to figure out who did. If you can give me any kind of a clue, anything at all, then I can do some more research. I can invent characters. I can figure out what happened. I can free your spirit so you do not have to haunt this house anymore. And I'm not saying that she spoke to me. But a word came into my mind, and the word was listen. And then I heard it a second time. Listen. And it seems to me that if somebody who has only one ear wants you to listen, you better pay attention. So I listened, and I did more research, and I invented characters, and I know who poisoned that cake. And it wasn't Chloe. Now, there is another piece of this story, and this is the part that involves the picture we're going to show you. So the next day we went outside. You know where the behind there. The next day we went outside, and the sun was shining. We wondered, why did it feel so creepy in there the night before? It was a beautiful morning, and we went off in different directions, and he found this lovely live oak tree, great big tree you could barely get your arms around. And he saw something interesting on that tree. He called me over and said, look, see what's up there? And there is something very interesting on that tree. That's what's in the picture we're going to show you. Now, it's not anything gross. It's not anything that's going to give you nightmares. It's just something a little bit weird when you know what you know about Chloe. Okay? So, we're going to get to that door back there. Hold on, we're not...
It's not there. Sit down. It's not there right now. Sit down.
We're going to get to that door back there to show you the picture. When your teachers dismiss you, we will be standing there to show you the pictures as you file out to go to lunch. Okay? Thank you so much for inviting me to this school. Bye-bye.
All right, back row. Back row. Let's.